All right, so you're thinking about sourcing from Vietnam.
Hmm.
Lots of people are these days.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic.
There's this buzz about potential there, right? Like cost savings,
Right.
high quality goods. But,
Me.
anyone who's ever tried to source internationally knows that it's not exactly a walk in the park.
No, it's not as easy as just like picking a spot on a map and being like, oh yeah, make my stuff there.
Exactly.
There's a lot more to it.
That's why we're here. We're doing a deep dive today.
That's right.
We're going to tackle some of the biggest challenges you might face
Yeah,
when you try to source from Vietnam.
absolutely.
But even more important than that, we're going to try to give you some solutions.
Give you a bit of a toolkit.
Think of this as your crash course in sourcing smarter.
I like that. Sourcing smarter.
So to guide us today, we have this great article.
Yes.
It's called Sourcing from Vietnam, Overcoming Key Challenges for Successful Global Sourcing.
It lays out a really good framework for thinking about this strategically.
Yeah, it's like a blueprint for your whole sourcing journey.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Challenge number 1.
Okay.
Understanding the local market.
Right.
So this article points out that, Vietnam's manufacturing landscape is really diverse.
It is.
You've got different regions specializing in different kinds of products.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation at all.
Okay, so what does that mean for somebody who's, looking to source from Vietnam? What do they really need to understand?
Well, you can't just assume that because Vietnam is known for something like textiles, that every supplier there is a textile expert.
Right.
So you can't just go in blindly.
You got to do your research.
You really have to.
You got to do your homework.
Thorough market research is key.
All right, so how do we actually do that? I mean, I'm not getting on a plane tomorrow and flying to Vietnam to tour factories.
Right? You don't have to hop on a plane right away.
Right.
There are some really incredible resources available online now.
Okay.
Have you heard
Of what?
There's this website called Mention a Specific Market Research Tool or website.
Okay.
It is a fantastic tool for mapping out the Vietnamese manufacturing landscape.
Oh, cool.
You can filter by product, category by region, even by minimum order quantities.
Okay, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm looking for electronics manufacturer.
Okay.
Does this tool actually tell me which region of Vietnam to focus on?
Absolutely. It would probably point you towards a region, like mention a specific region in Vietnam known for electronics manufacturing, which has a really high concentration of electronics suppliers.
Got it.
And they have a very skilled workforce there as well.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean...
You can drill down even further
wow.
to specific cities within that region.
That's amazing.
And start identifying potential partners.
That's really cool. But let's be real for a second.
Sure.
Even with these amazing tools online, there's still a lot to learn about navigating the Vietnamese market, right?
Absolutely.
Like how do you...
A different culture, different language. There's just
different business practices.
a lot of things you need to take into consideration. And that's where the value of having a local sourcing partner really comes in.
Okay.
They have boots on the ground. They speak the language.
Right.
They understand those cultural nuances.
Yeah.
And they've already built those relationships with trusted suppliers.
So it's like having a local guide.
It is.
Who can help you, cut through all the noise and avoid some costly mistakes.
Exactly. They can pre-vet suppliers. They can conduct factory audits.
Wow.
And they can help you understand the local laws and regulations.
That's huge.
It's really valuable.
Like having a secret weapon
It is.
in your sourcing arsenal.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so challenge number 2 brings us to another really important part of this process.
Right.
Finding the right supplier.
Okay.
This article really stresses how important it is to have a really solid supplier management process in place.
Yeah, it's almost like dating. You can't just, swipe right on the first profile that you see and expect a perfect match.
Right.
You've got to do your due diligence.
Ask the right questions.
Ask the right questions.
Get to know them.
Really get to know.
Before you commit.
Exactly.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are some of the red flags to look out for when you're evaluating these suppliers in Vietnam?
A big one is a lack of transparency.
Okay.
If a supplier is hesitant to share information about their factory, their workforce, their production processes, that's a major warning sign.
So basically, if they're dodging your questions or being evasive at all,
yeah,
it's time to move on.
Absolutely. You want a supplier who is open and honest,
right?
Welcomes your questions, and is willing to give you all the information that you need to make an informed decision.
Okay, great. So the article also highlights the importance of factory audits.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about what those actually entail.
Yeah, so a factory audit is essentially a thorough inspection of the supplier's facilities.
Yeah.
It's about verifying their capabilities, assessing their working conditions, and making sure that they meet your quality and ethical standards.
So is this something I should be doing myself, or is this something that's better left to the experts?
Honestly, unless you have a background in manufacturing and auditing, it's probably best to bring in a professional.
Okay.
There are specialized auditing firms out there that can conduct these inspections for you, and a lot of sourcing partners also offer this service.
So again, it's all about finding that sourcing partner that you can trust, someone who's going to have your back,
Yeah, someone who's going to protect your interests.
protect your interests.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so speaking of potential pitfalls, let's move on to challenge number 3,
Right.
managing logistics and supply chain.
Okay.
I think anybody who's ever had to deal with international shipping knows this can be a real headache.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, we're talking
potential delays,
fluctuating shipping costs,
fluctuating costs.
customs hurdles.
Yep, you name it. It can feel like you're navigating a minefield.
It definitely can.
But here's the good news.
Okay.
There are some strategies to mitigate those risks
Yes.
and make that whole process a lot smoother.
Absolutely.
Okay, spill the beans. What is the secret to stress-free international shipping?
All right. Well, first and foremost, you want to work with a sourcing company or a freight forwarder that has a deep understanding of Vietnamese logistics.
Yeah.
They're going to have those established relationships with shipping lines, customs brokers, transportation providers, and that ensures smooth sailing for your goods.
So again, it comes back to having the right partners.
It does.
Someone who knows the ins and outs.
Yeah, they can help you navigate all the paperwork,
Right.
anticipate any potential delays, and just keep your supply chain moving efficiently.
Okay, so that sounds like a lifesaver,
It is,
especially if you're dealing with, time-sensitive shipments.
for sure.
Now, you mentioned customs hurdles earlier. What are some of the common challenges that businesses face when they're importing goods from Vietnam?
Well, Vietnam has its own set of import regulations and tariffs.
Right.
So it's really crucial to understand those requirements before you ship anything. You need to have the correct documentation labeling packaging, to avoid delays or even having your goods seized by customs.
So it's not as easy as just like slapping a shipping label on a box and sending it on its way.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
There's a lot of paperwork involved.
Right.
And even small mistakes can have big consequences.
Sounds like another reason to lean on that trusted sourcing partner.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Quality assurance and inspections.
All right. Challenge number 4.
Challenge number 4, let's be honest.
Yeah.
What good are all these cost savings if the product doesn't meet your standards?
Exactly. You don't want to end up with a container full of duds.
No, you don't.
Consistent quality is the cornerstone of a successful product.
You need to have those really robust quality assurance procedures in place from start to finish.
So we're talking like regular inspections throughout the production process?
Yes.
Factory audits to assess working conditions and production capabilities?
Yes.
And maybe even independent third-party testing to really verify product quality.
Absolutely. All of those things are important.
Okay, and all of this is stuff that a good sourcing company can help me with.
Yeah, you got it. A reliable sourcing company can be really instrumental here.
Okay.
They can oversee those inspections, make sure factories adhere to international standards,
Right.
and provide you with those detailed reports on product quality every step of the way.
They're like quality control superheroes,
They are.
working tirelessly to protect your brand's reputation.
That's right.
Okay, speaking of superheroes,
Yeah.
let's move on to challenge number 5,
All right.
ethical sourcing and compliance.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's a big one. And it's something that's becoming increasingly important for both businesses and consumers, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting the best price anymore.
Right.
It's about making sure that the products that we're buying are being made responsibly and ethically.
It's about the whole package.
Yeah, fair labor practices, environmental sustainability, safe working conditions, the whole 9 yards.
A whole thing.
So this article really stresses the importance of partnering with a sourcing company that actually prioritizes ethical standards.
Yes.
But how can you really know if a sourcing partner is truly committed to these practices?
That's a great question, and it's one that you should absolutely be asking potential partners.
Okay.
Look for certifications,
Okay.
like B Corp
Mm-hmm.
or SA 8000,
Okay.
which indicate a commitment to social and environmental responsibility.
Got it.
Don't be afraid to dig deeper.
Yeah.
Ask about their auditing processes.
Mm-hmm.
Find out how they ensure that their suppliers are meeting those ethical standards.
Transparency is key.
Transparency is key. You want a partner who is open about their practices
Right.
and willing to share information about their supply chain.
Okay, so it sounds like finding the right sourcing partner is absolutely crucial for anyone who's looking to source from Vietnam.
It is. They can be your guide, your advocate, your quality control expert, all rolled into one.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here today,
We have.
but hopefully you're walking away with a much clearer understanding of the challenges and, more importantly, the solutions to sourcing successfully from Vietnam.
Yes. And remember, knowledge is power.
Mm,
The more you know about the Vietnamese market, the better equipped you'll be to make those informed decisions.
right,
Avoid those costly mistakes and just build a supply chain that you can be really proud of.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. Now we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere.
Okay.
We'll be right back to wrap up this deep dive into sourcing smarter in Vietnam.
Sounds good. And we are back
Right.
ready to kind of uncover some of those big picture strategies for sourcing success in Vietnam.
All right, I'm all ears.
Okay.
We've talked about understanding the market, finding the right supplier, navigating logistics, ensuring both quality A&D ethical practices. So, what's the key takeaway here? What should our listeners really walk away understanding?
I think the big thing is taking that long-term strategic view
Oh.
of your sourcing.
Mhm.
Don't get tunnel vision on just the immediate cost savings.
Okay.
Think about the bigger picture,
Right.
the ripple effects of your decision.
Okay, so give me an example.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like, in practice?
Sure. So let's say you're sourcing textiles.
Okay.
We talked about textiles. You could go with the cheapest supplier,
Right.
get your products made, quickly check that box and move on.
Yeah.
But what happens down the line if that supplier is cutting corners on quality?
Oh,
Or even worse, what if they're not treating their workers properly?
ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, those cost savings don't look so appealing when you think about it that way.
Right. You could end up with damaged goods, a PR nightmare.
Right.
Not to mention the ethical implications.
Definitely.
So instead of just chasing the lowest price, consider the long-term impact
Okay.
of your sourcing choices. Ask yourself, what values do I want reflected in my supply chain?
I love that.
Yeah,
It's about more than just profit margins.
it is.
It's about, building a business that you can actually be proud of.
Absolutely.
So let's bring this back to Vietnam.
Okay.
It's a country with incredible manufacturing potential,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also a nation that's undergoing rapid development.
Yeah.
So this means there are some really unique opportunities to make a positive impact.
Right.
So as businesses source from Vietnam,
Mm.
they have a chance to be a part of that growth,
Mm-hmm.
to contribute to its development in a really meaningful way.
Absolutely. By choosing ethical, sustainable suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses can drive positive change, not just for their own bottom line,
Right.
but for Vietnam as a whole.
So it becomes less about a transactional relationship
Yeah.
and more about a partnership
A partnership.
where everybody benefits.
Right. It's about recognizing that sourcing decisions have a ripple effect.
Mhm.
They impact workers,
Right.
communities,
Yeah.
the environment.
Absolutely.
It's about choosing to be a force for good.
I'm really struck by this idea of sourcing with intention.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding the cheapest option. It's about making choices that align with your values
Mm-hmm.
and contribute to a better world.
And the beautiful thing is that doing good is often good for business.
Okay.
Consumers are becoming increasingly conscious of where their products come from, and they're willing to support businesses that prioritize ethical and sustainable practices.
So it's like a win-win situation.
It is.
You get high-quality products
Mm-hmm.
made ethically and responsibly, and you build a brand that resonates with conscious consumers.
Absolutely.
Okay, now this brings us to a really important point.
Okay.
When it comes to sourcing from Vietnam, compliance is
Mhm.
key. Vietnam has its own set of laws and regulations,
It does.
particularly around labor and environmental standards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's imperative that your suppliers are adhering to those.
Right.
So how can businesses ensure that their suppliers are actually playing by the rules?
That's a great question.
Are we talking factory audits again?
Factory audits are definitely part of the equation,
Okay.
but it goes beyond that. It's about partnering with suppliers who share your commitment
Mm-hmm.
to ethical and sustainable practices.
Right.
Look for suppliers who are transparent about their operations,
Okay.
who have those certifications like SA 8000 or B Corp,
Mm-hmm.
and who are willing to work with you to ensure compliance every step of the way.
It sounds like building really strong relationships with your suppliers is key.
It is.
You need to be able to trust that they're upholding the same standards that you are.
Absolutely. Communication is paramount.
Okay.
Be upfront about your expectations, ask questions, don't be afraid to push back if something doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, you're not alone.
There are resources and organizations out there
Yeah.
that can help you navigate those complexities of ethical sourcing in Vietnam.
So speaking of resources,
Yes,
I know you've got some great insights
I do.
on how businesses can go beyond just checking that compliance box
Mm-hmm.
and really become a force for positive change in Vietnam.
I do. This is where things get really exciting.
Okay.
There are so many ways that businesses can leverage their sourcing power to make a real tangible difference in the lives of those workers and communities.
All right, let's dive into that in part 3 of our deep dive.
Yeah.
You won't want to miss this.
And we're back, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to explore how sourcing from Vietnam can be more than just a business transaction.
Yeah.
It can be a chance to really make a difference.
This is what gets me excited. You see a lot of companies that just focus on ticking the compliance boxes.
Right, checking those boxes off?
But I believe businesses have this power
Yeah,
to go above and beyond that
absolutely.
and really empower those Vietnamese partners.
I love that. So how do we actually move beyond just compliance and into this realm of real empowerment?
One powerful way is through capacity building.
Okay.
So imagine investing in training programs
Okay.
for your supplier's workforce.
Right.
You're helping them develop new skills, improve their efficiency.
So you're not just placing orders, you're investing in their long-term success.
Exactly. It's about building that true partnership where both sides benefit.
I love that.
Yeah.
What about community development projects?
Oh, that's a fantastic avenue as well.
What kind of projects are we talking about?
It could be anything from, funding a local school or a health clinic
Wow.
to contributing to infrastructure improvements or sponsoring those environmental initiatives.
So it's about picking projects that, really align with your company's values
Exactly.
and addressing the specific needs of that community.
Yes. The key is to be thoughtful and intentional
Right.
about where you direct those resources.
And I imagine the impact of those kinds of initiatives can be really transformative.
Oh, it can be huge.
Yeah.
Not only does it, improve the lives of the workers and their families,
Mm-hmm.
but it fosters that goodwill and loyalty.
Right. It builds those relationships.
Exactly, which ultimately strengthens your business relationships as well.
Now, I know that, navigating all of the complexities of sourcing from Vietnam can feel really daunting,
It can be.
especially for businesses that are just starting out.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to those companies that are kind of new to this game?
I think my top piece of advice would be to partner with a really reputable sourcing company or consultant.
Okay.
Someone who has that deep understanding of the Vietnamese market
Right.
and a really strong track record of those ethical and sustainable practices.
So don't go it alone.
Don't go to lean on those experts.
They can be your guide, your advocate,
Exactly.
your quality control expert.
All rolled into one.
All rolled into one. I love it. And remember, sourcing from Vietnam should be an enriching experience,
It should be.
both for your business
Mm-hmm.
and for the people and communities that you're partnering with.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, there you have it. Our deep dive into sourcing smarter in Vietnam. We've covered the challenges, the solutions, the incredible opportunities that await those businesses that approach sourcing with intentionality, a commitment to those ethical and sustainable practices.
This has been a great conversation.
It has. And remember, it's not just about finding the cheapest supplier.
Right.
It's about building those lasting partnerships,
Yes.
creating value for everyone involved,
Absolutely.
and contributing to a better world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, folks. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration
Sounds good.
of the world of global sourcing.